We're here to share the story of a world that's full of light.
Much as far as you are a Nigerian, we must name and shame. Nigeria must vote wisely in the next election. We must demand accountability, not someday, but today. You see the blood of these 18 children? It's not a stain to be wiped. It is a fire, and that fire is burning through the lies, the excuses, and the silence. I need to be sincere with you, my girl. I'm angry now. I need to be sincere with you. I'm not happy. Imagining this happens to somebody I know, or this happens to me. Where will I be? What will I be thinking about now? How will I survive after I had 3 children? And one day, when these children were sleeping, some people come with gun and massacre them.
It makes me angry too, Dad. How can people be paid to protect those children but never show up when it matters? It's like poor people are invisible to them. The lives of kids in villages don't matter just because they're not rich or powerful. But they do matter. Every child matters. Grace, Peter, Sarah, Daniel, you matter. And even if they didn't come for you that day, we are here now.
Yeah.
We see you. We remember you.
Yes.
And we won't stop until those who failed you are held responsible.
Exactly.
Dad,
Yeah?
I've heard you say before that silence is complicity.
Correct.
But Nigeria is ruled by silence. No arrests.
No.
No outrage from
No.
the top.
No.
Just press statements.
Yes.
So, Dad, let's go there. Who should be held responsible? From Jos to Abuja, which governors, ministers, commissioners, or police leaders do you believe have blood in their hand?
A lot. All of them. As a matter of fact, all of them have blood in their hands. Heavenly good. You want to go there? You want to go there? Good. Let's go. You are asking who has blood on their hands and who should be held responsible for the death of 18 children in Plateau State and the thousands before them. Let me start from ground up, because blood runs from the villages to the villa. Governor Caleb Mutuang, governor of Plateau State. Where were you during the Plateau massacre? It happened under your watch, not your predecessors, not your politicians. And yet, 30 days, 40 days later, not a single arrest. Not one. And don't dare say you are investigating, because that's what you people say. You weren't elected to write condolence letter. You were elected to protect lives. You knew these villages were vulnerable. You knew this wasn't the first attack. You had the power to beef up security, but you did not. That makes you complicit. You may not have pulled the trigger, but your inaction gave the killers permission. Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru Abubakar, this is your jurisdiction. Nigeria's security failure sits squarely on your desk. How is it possible that heavily armed terrorists moved into 2 villages at night, burned over 30 homes, murdered 51 people, and the military showed up after the bodies were cold? Jeez, where were the reinforcements? Where were the drones? Where was the swift response you promised Nigerians? You failed. And failure at this level, when children die, is not just competence. It's criminal negligence. Chief of Army Staff, General, your soldiers were 15 minutes away. 15 minutes. I need every listener to listen to understand this. Children were being slaughtered. And trained Nigerian soldiers sat nearby doing nothing. Your silence, your delay, your failure to mobilize, you are responsible. The army loves to parade power when peaceful protesters come out. But when killers with AK-47 storm villages at night, you disappear. You are not protecting the nation. You are protecting power. That is what you are doing. Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, your force is a national disgrace. You parade cybercrime suspect within 48 hours. You arrest journalists who speak the truth. You beat protesters demanding better governance. But you can't arrest child killers even when villagers identify them. Let me remind you, 72 documented massacre in Nigeria in the last 5 years. Only 3 resulted in prosecution. You've left thousands of killers walk free. That's not a coincidence. That is a system, and the Nigerian police are part of that system of impunity. A system that sacrifices children for peace talk. A system that lets killers blend back into the society like nothing happened. And lastly, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, sir, Commander-in-Chief, this blood runs to your doorstep. You said enough is enough, but the killing didn't stop. You said we will bring them to justice, but nobody has been arrested. We stand with the victims, but the victims are standing alone in makeshift tents, burying their children in unmarked graves, traumatized, abandoned. Where is the outrage? Where is the emergency security summit, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Where is the presidential visit to Bassa? You've flown across the world shaking hands with global leaders, but you haven't stood at the mass grave of Grace Yohanna or Samuel Beatrice to offer dignity in death. Sir, the world is watching and you are failing. Your silence is not neutrality, it is betrayal. Now, let me say this to all Nigerians. If these officials aren't held accountable, we are telling the next batch of terrorists that they can kill children and walk free. This is not call for revenge. This is a call for justice. And justice means resignation. Justice means trial. Justice means jail time. Justice means saying never again. And meaning it, not just by saying it by mouth. If you are a governor, a minister, a commissioner, or a military commander in Nigeria, and you had the power to prevent this massacre but did nothing, then you have blood on your hands. And we will not let you wash it off. Yes.
Dad,
Yeah?
I needed to hear that. Because when leaders say nothing and do nothing, it's like they're helping the killers hide. It hurts to think that people in big offices wear suits and giving speech could have saved those kids and didn't. But if they won't hold themselves accountable,
Yeah.
we will speak the truth till it becomes impossible to ignore.
Yeah.
Dad,
Yeah.
the UN always says never again, but again keeps happening.
Yeah.
Journalists move on. Foreign leaders stay quiet. It makes me wonder, would the world care more if these children didn't come from a village in Nigeria? Dad, do you think the international community is ignoring this because it's just African children dying?
Maybe.
What would you tell the United Nations if you only had 60 seconds in front of them right now?
My daughter, you just pulled the curtain back on the world's biggest lie. They always say never again. But what they mean is never again unless it is African children. They say every child matters, but what they mean is some children's matter more than others. Let's be honest, Heavenly God. The world doesn't care because it was Nigerian children who died. See, let me ask you this. If 18 white children were burned alive in their homes, would CNN cover it for just one day? Let's even say they are dogs in France, in UK, Heavenly God. You've seen how Europeans value their dogs. If 18 dogs in Europe were burned alive in their own homes, would CNN cover it for just one day? If 51 people were butchered in a village in Canada, would there be just one tweet from the UN and then silence? If a child in Texas hid under the bodies of dead parents to survive, would the world's media move on within 24 hours? No. Absolutely not. No. There would be international outrage. You would have been hearing sanctions. UN emergency sessions, head of state flying in, flags at half-mast, candlelight vigils on every continent, pitch at Davos, hashtags everywhere on social media. But when His Grace Yohanna, a 7-year-old Nigerian girl who sang in church and wanted to be a teacher, the world shrugs. When it is Samuel Bitrus, just 5 years old, who gave his father a colorful stone as gift, the global community act like it's just one of those African stories. They ignore us because we are Africans and because our grief doesn't shake Wall Street or embarrass G7 leaders. And I'm sick. Heavenly good. I'm sick of all this hypocrisy. The same international community that funds Nigerian election. The same ambassadors who shake hands with corrupt governors in Nigeria. The same UN agency who write glowing report about progress in West Africa. All of them were silent when children were being hunted like animals in Plateau State. So yes, I believe with everything in me that these children were ignored because they were Africans. They are from poor community village in Nigeria. And if I have 60 seconds to speak to the United Nations, Heavenly God, I would not whisper. I would not beg. No, I would not roar. Let me tell you exactly what I would say. I will say to the Secretary General, to every ambassador, to every human rights envoy, I stand before you not as a politician, not as a diplomat, but as a father. A Nigerian father whose soul has been shattered by the massacre of 18 children. They were not rebels. They were not soldiers. They were babies, murdered in their sleep. Some burned, some shot, some buried together in mass grave. And you said nothing. You call it a tragedy. You send your thoughts and prayer, but you did not demand justice. You did not activate an emergency tribunal. You did not impose actions on or demand arrest. Do you know what that tells the killers? That black lives in Nigeria are negotiable. That African suffering is just background noise. That children like mine, children like Grace and Samuel and Ruth are disposable. You said never again, but here we are again, and again, and again. So I ask you, Antonio Guterres, if this doesn't move you, what will? We don't need your pity. We need your power. Use it or stop pretending you care. That's what I would say, Heavenly God. It is time to stop begging for justice and start demanding it. We are humans. We are not stones. And to every foreign government that gives weapons, surveillance gear, or military funding to Nigerians without holding our leaders accountable for massacre, you are part of this problem. Yes. To every media outlet that buries African sufferings in the bottom corner of their website, you are part of these problems. And to every international NGO that writes glowing annual report why children are being slaughtered in the background, you are part of this problem. See, my daughter, I've said this without numbers. I've said it a lot of time. The truth is we are alone. In Africa, in Nigeria, nobody is coming to save us, but we are not weak. Because from Makoko to Jos, from Lagos to Kigali, from Accra to Nairobi, there's a generation rising that refuses to die in silence. And if the world won't speak for us, then we will speak for ourselves. We will tell the stories. We will raise the banners. And we will name the dead. And we will fight, not with guns, but with truth. With fire in our walls. And with a love for our children that no dictator, no terrorist, and no indifferent world can destroy. So hear this, my daughter. They may ignore us today, but tomorrow our voices will be impossible to silence. The voice of me, the voice of you, and the voice of every Nigerian children will not be silent anymore.
Dad.
Yeah?
I believe that too. That if Grace had been a little girl in France or the US,
Yeah.
maybe the world would have stopped and listened.
Definitely.
but she was ours. She was Nigerian. And that shouldn't mean that she matters less. So even if the world wouldn't say her name,
Definitely we will.
we'll keep saying them all until the world has no choice but to listen.
Definitely.
Dad,
Yeah?
we see the graves, we hear the silence.
Yeah.
But Dad, you still speak, you still fight, and I know it because you believe in something deeper than pain.
Yes.
So let me ask this from my heart. After everything, what gives you the strength to keep fighting? What would you say to a child who survived that massacre?
Oh my God.
Who's living with trauma, fear, and questions like, why did they kill my family?
My girl, it's not enough to be angry. No, it's not enough to expose evil. At some point, we have to ask, what now? How do we survive this type of grief? How do we wake up after burying those children? I've asked myself these questions 1,000 times, and every time the answer keeps coming back. Right! Because I refuse to let killers win. You see, the mothers who came into Zike and Kimakpa that night, they didn't just want to take lives. They wanted to take hope. They wanted to turn our children into ghosts and the community into ruins. They wanted Nigerian people to forget, but I will not forget and I will not let them win. You ask what gives me the strength. It's children like you, my girl. It is the sound of your voice. Heavenly God, speaking truth on this podcast when you could be watching cartoons or playing outside with your friends. What concerns you with the situation of Nigeria? It is children like Thomas Danladi who survived the massacre by lying still under his sister's body. It is the children in camps in Maiduguri still reading their school books by candlelight, still singing, still surviving. And that's where justice began. Not just in arrest or prosecution, but in refusal to let pain define us. So what will I say to a child who survived this massacre? Let me look into the camera right now and speak directly to you. My child, I don't know why they came. I don't know why they hurt your family. And I won't lie to you. There are no easy answers anyone can give you. But I need you to hear me right now. You did not deserve this. Your pain is not your fault. The monsters who did this, they are cowards. And what they feared most was your joy, your future, your light. They wanted to silence you, but you survived. You are the story they failed to erase. You are the seed they've tried to bury, not knowing you are a tree. And yes, I know the nights are hard. I know the screams still echo in your ears, but you are not alone. I am here. We are here. The Onaolapo mission is here, and we will fight for you until your wounds are healed, till your name is saved, and until your dream is rise again. Don't let this word harden your heart. Don't let it steal your smile. The best revenge is to live loud, to live proud, and to live free. Heavenly God, that's what I would tell them, and that's what fails me, because the Onaolapo mission isn't just a podcast. Yes. It's not just a brand. It's a war cry. It's a refusal to bow. It's our family's vow to make sure every child in Africa, most especially from Nigeria, from the slums of Makoko to the village of Plateau, is seen, is heard, is protected. We exist to tell the stories the world ignores. We exist to say to every grieving parent, you are not alone. We exist to say to every child survivor, you still have a future, and we will fight for it, even when no one else will. You see, pain can destroy, but it can also build purpose. And I choose purpose because after everything I've seen in just little life of mine, after everything I've lived through, I believe in something stronger than fear. I believe in justice. I believe in children, and I believe that our voices your voice and my voice can shake the earth. To every listeners, don't wait for the system to change. Become the change. Volunteer, advocate, speak, educate the children around you, protect. Let's make the world dangerous for those who harm children and make it safe for those who dream. This fight, this righteousness, this painful holy fight is how we say to Grace, to Samuel, to Blessing, you mattered, you still mattered, and we will never stop fighting for you.
To every child listening, you're still here. That means there's still hope. And we're going to build something beautiful from your pain. Something that no bullet can destroy. I want everyone watching to listen. This is not just about 18 children who died in Plateau State, Nigeria. This is about who we are as a country. It's about what kind of people we've become when our children can be murdered in their sleep and we move on like it's just another story. So let me say this clearly. I indict the Nigerian entertainment industry. The artists, the comedians, the skit makers, the Nollywood actors, the Afrobeat legends, the brand ambassadors, the social media influencers. You said nothing. Not a post, not a song, not a speech. You saw the headlines. You saw the bodies. You saw the pictures of mass graves with children in them. But you went back to your studio, back to your product acts, back to your gossips, back to your silence. Shame on you. If it was your album being leaked or your image being dragged online, you'd know. If it was your money at stake, your concert cancelled, your brand dropped, you'd speak. But 18 kids burned, gunned down, hacked to death, couldn't even get 18 seconds of your Instagram story. You say you influence, but what are you influencing for God's sake? You influenced waist trainers. You influence skin creams. You influence betting apps and election lies. You don't influence truth. You don't influence courage. You don't influence change. You have 500,000 followers and you use them to do what? To pretend like nothing happened? To post your foods, your trips, your outfits of the day while mothers in Bassa are picking up the bones of their babies? Shame on you. You posted silence. You posted cowardice. You posted complicity. I'm only 9 years old, and I even know that silence is a choice. And when you choose to be silent while children are murdered, you are not neutral. You are guilty. And now, let me turn to those with real power. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this is on your watch. You call yourself a man of action, but you have not acted. You said enough is enough, but more children are dying under your leadership. Where are the arrests? Where is the military tribunal? Where is the justice you promised Nigeria? You didn't visit Plateau. You didn't face the families. You didn't say children's names. So don't come on national television to talk about peace when you did nothing when peace was shattered. Vice President Kashim Shettima, where were you? You were silent. The second highest office in Nigeria. What are you vice president of? Silence? Minister of Women Affairs? What exactly do you do? 18 children were murdered and you couldn't hold a press conference. No advocacy tour. No statement to comfort the mothers who lost everything. What kind of minister are you? You should be on the ground. You should be screaming at the president for security reform. You should be fighting like a lioness for every girl that was burned alive in her bed. Instead, you gave silence. Governor Caleb Mutfwang, the killings happened on your soil. Bassa is your state. Sike is your community. and you allowed children to die while military forces were just 15 minutes away. Your people warned you. They begged you. They cried for protection. You gave them excuses. And now, all you've offered is a press statement and a prayer. You should resign. You should weep in public with those families. You should be naming names and arresting suspects, not hosting town hall meetings and dodging blame. You failed them. And the Nigerian police force? You are the biggest national disgrace of all. You harass youths. You show force during elections. But where were your guns when children were dying? Where were your armored vehicles when the villages were burning? Where are the suspects? You parade cybercrime suspects like trophies, but real killers walk freely across Nigerian soil because you're too scared, too lazy, and too corrupt to act. And do you sleep at night? How do you wear a uniform that's soaked in the blood of children you failed to protect? You are not keeping Nigeria safe. You are helping Nigeria die slowly, violently, and without justice. And now I speak to every adult, Nigerians home and abroad who stay quiet. You say, let's not talk politics. You say, we don't want trouble. You say, let's leave it to God. But while you're leaving it to God, the devil is busy collecting the lives of your children. Don't come to church on Sunday and raise your hands in worship when your silence is louder than your prayers. Say their names: Samuel Bridges, Blessing Musa, Ruth Emmanuel, Mercy Danladi, Peter Sunday, Joshua Abraham. These were not numbers. These were not headlines. They were not collateral damage. They were children. Children who danced. Children who learned. Children who dreamed. And now they're gone. Because people with power were too afraid to speak. Because people with platforms were too selfish to risk their image. Because people with uniforms were too slow to act. Never again when we stop being cowards. So here's my call to action from a 9-year-old Nigerian girl who has seen enough lies for a lifetime. If you have a platform, use it. Stop posting selfies and start posting truth. If you are in power, act, arrest, prosecute, protect. If you are a citizen, speak, vote, protest, and demand justice. If you are silent, understand this: your silence is a choice, and your choice is killing children. This is not politics. This is life and death. This is good versus evil. This is children and whether they live long enough to become adults. You may forget their names, but I won't. We won't. Because we are Onaolapo and our voice is louder than your silence. We began this episode by saying their names: Grace, Samuel, Blessing, David. We told their stories. We exposed the silence. We held the powerful accountable. And we demanded justice, not just in courtrooms, but in classrooms, living rooms, and boardrooms. But before we end the show, let me leave you with this quote, a reminder of why this fight matters. The soul is healed by being with children. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Thank you for walking with us through the fire. Thank you for not turning away. Thank you for listening, for watching, not just with your ears and eyes, but with your heart. Watch out for our next episode of the Onaolapo Show, The World Through Our Eyes, where we'll dive even deeper into the truth the world tries to ignore. Visit our website at www.onaolapo.org for powerful resources, real stories, breaking news about children and families across the world, and all our latest podcast videos. And don't just listen. Join the movement. Like, follow, and be part of the conversation on all social media platforms at the Onaolapo Show. Because we're not just a podcast, we are a mission, we are a family. And we're building a future where every child is seen, protected, and loved. Till next time, say their names, demand justice, and never be silent again.
Bye.